Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We're your hosts, Adriana M.A. and
Jackie Sanders. We're two art professionals sharing for the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
We talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you'll be notified when we drop a new episode every Tuesday. Now, on today's episode, we are super excited because it's going to be a first for us. We're going to be doing a flashback episode. And these are things that we're going to be highlighting throughout the year with some of our favorite conversations or previous topical conversations that we still find relevant from previous episodes. Because with nearly 200 episodes under our belt, we know that not all of our listeners, especially the newer ones, may have heard these episodes and conversations before. So we're excited to bring them back and highlight them in your feed.
Absolutely. So our first flashback episode was originally episode 123, Art Evolution and Social Media Growth with Anna Price. So some interesting fun facts about Anna's episode. It was our first interview with an artist currently living on the other side of the globe. So that was awesome. Scheduling was interesting, of course. And after we released it, a lot more new listeners from Australia started to listening to our podcast. And it eventually became our most listened to episode in 2024. We also received great feedback from our current listeners who absolutely loved all the advice that Anna generously shared. So without further ado, here's our conversation with Anna Price.
On today's episode, we are so excited to have an artist from the other side of the world with us, Anna Price. So welcome, Anna.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Real quick, before we dive in, though, for people who have not seen your work before, let me give a little bit more about your wonderful resume. So Anna Price is a Sydney-based interior designer turned artist in 2019. As a mother of four, Anna did her first painting out of the desire to escape from her screen-based work and to obtain affordable artwork for her new home. She paints intuitively, unscripted, and untrained. Her work draws on her creative intelligence to come up with multiple styles of busy abstract expressionist and geometric style artworks that are predominantly large scale and involve huge amounts of bold color. Her inspiration comes from repetition, scale, her surrounding environments, and children's literature. Today, Anna has turned her side hobby into a multifaceted art business. She has a public-facing studio gallery right outside of Sydney, Australia, where she produces and releases original artwork each month, maintains an online custom print store with over 100 art prints, and a growing clothing label, AP Art, The Label. Very, very impressive stuff.
And of course, that's
Thanks,
the formal
guys.
intro. But Anna, how would you describe your work to someone who's never seen it before, especially if they're listening to this while they're in their car?
Okay, well, I'm not one to sit still for long and I get bored really quickly, and I'm a true creative at heart. So I want to try all the things. And so that's what I do. So I've got three main styles of painting. The first one is like an abstract expressionist style of painting. So, excuse me. So they're usually perceived as like jungle scenes or landscapes and things like that. Lots of pretty flower shapes, which aren't meant to be flowers, but they appear as flowers. My next style would be like a cubisty style, like very geometric, big, bold colors, very unforgiving to paint. And then I do another style, which is like characters and people. So like painted people but with like a little bit of pencil progressive at the top and like blended color backgrounds and things like that. And so my process is I cycle through each different style of painting until I get super sick of it. I'll do one for like 2 months, maybe 1 month or 2 months until I get super tired of it. And then I move on to the next one and rotate. So there might be like 9 months between me doing each style. But each time I revisit it, it evolves a little bit. So I guess in that there's also something for everyone. I guess it creates diversity as well. So some people might not be into my abstracty stuff, but they love the cubist stuff or they love the beach people. So yeah, I guess as a kid though, I was always illustrating. So I loved the fine detail of pencils And I would come home from school and I'd draw, or I'd wake up in the morning and I'd draw, I'd go to sleep drawing. I'd sit in class as a teenager. I wouldn't listen. I would just be drawing in my diary and drawing pictures of people and animals, like anthropomorphistic animals, turning animals into people, just weird stuff. But it was all like very realistic. And I hated paint. I never painted because I didn't have that control over what I was doing with paint. I guess with a pencil, you can really get into the fine detail, but with paint, I wasn't allowed to do that. So I just never had any interest. But it's funny now because when I paint, I love abstract painting, and for things to look not realistic, the less realistic they look, the better it feels for me. And I see my kids doing that. I've got 5-year-old twins, and the way that they draw is so beautiful. And that, you know, these big heads and small bodies and a cat that's bigger than a house, and like nothing makes sense. And it's just like a pure expression of what they want to do. So I take my inspiration from their style of drawing now instead of trying to do these perfect pencil drawings. So yeah, that's a long answer.
That's okay. No, and that makes a lot of sense. And it's actually very interesting, both in like through teaching, you know, when I've taught children, through summer camps or workshops, etc. Also friends who are artists who also have kids. There's this thing where it's like a lot of times as kids, like all we do is representational. So you're not alone in this. It's almost like, depending on the child, sometimes it's hard for them to think in the abstract, because they don't understand that that is another way to express feelings, emotions, and it doesn't have to look like a thing.
Yeah.
But then when they do, it's abstracted anyways, like you said.
Yes,
bigger than the house. So I don't know.
exactly.
It's that lovely blend. I absolutely love it.
But when they're little, they don't care. They don't care if it looks like they're just trying to express it, and then they start caring, and their work
and
is
comparing.
And they get yes, and they're worried, and it doesn't look exactly like it. I want it to look like this. I've got 2 older kids as well, and they like to copy things, and like they get book covers and they copy the book cover and they want it to look like for like.
Yep.
Whereas I'd much prefer what the little ones are doing. So
but it's, I think, because we went past that stage too of like, no, we know what we want to achieve, and it's okay if it doesn't look the same, you know, but they're still in the comparison, like, but it
100%.
Yeah.
It doesn't look perfect. I'm like, it not looking perfect makes it perfect.
Anyway.
Yeah, but that's what makes it perfect, is the imperfection. So,
yeah,
exactly.
they'll eventually get there.
They will. They'll get there. They'll come full circle.
Eventually, yeah. I think it takes some of us some time to get there, but yes. Now, question for you, Anna. When did you mentioned like as a kid, you know, you were already like illustrating and sketching and things like that. When did you first become interested in making art, perhaps a little bit more intentionally?
It was totally by default. So we had just renovated our house, and I thought I could save some money by doing my own painting instead of buying one, because I realized how much they cost. And so I went to the art store and I bought a cheap canvas and some student paint. I did this painting, and I'm like, it's okay. But the local preschool was calling out for auction items so we could raise money, and we had this fundraiser night, and it went as an auction item and it sold for $800. So I was like, oh, cool. Well, that's a vote of confidence, huh? So this was back in 2019. And so I did another one, and then a friend wanted to buy it. And his friend asked if I could commission one. And at this point I was selling them for like probably less than what the materials cost, because it's that whole imposter syndrome thing. Like, you're like, I'm friends with this guy or this girl, like, and I'm not an artist. So why I can't charge them money for this thing. So, anyway, I painted more and more, and I started an Instagram page and started documenting the process. And then it didn't grow very much, but just slowly, I guess, growing. And I was just very consistent with posting. And then COVID happened. And so I was running my own design business at the time, and I had quite a few jobs on, and every single one of them got pulled. And so if that hadn't happened, I don't know if my art career had happened, because this was not part of a plan. But so then I was at home with my 4 little kids, and if I had any time to do anything, I would paint just to escape from them and to, you know, just to have some kind of creative outlet and do something with my hands, which I was really enjoying. And this was actually, as you know, a really good time to be an emerging artist because everyone was at home spending money and they wanted their Zoom backdrop. So
The perfect combination.
Yeah, so things started to go really well there, and I just kept up my practice, although I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning, but I just started feeling my way through it and, asking questions and, excuse me, reaching out to people on Instagram, other artists, to ask them for advice on like where to get things and how to do things. So there was a local gallery who had come across my page, and she said, I'd love to see your work to put it in the gallery. So I brought her a painting and she said, this is good, but you need to get it framed. So she sent me to a place where you get your work framed. It's like an art shop, framing shop. And the lady who ran it, Sarah Montgomery, she's also an artist. And she's like, you cannot be going into a gallery with these materials. I just didn't know what I was doing. And I'm like, tell me what I need to know. And so she's like, you need to buy more. You need to buy better quality stuff. You need to get your stuff framed. You need UV resistant paint. You need to seal it, blah, blah, blah. So it was like learning a whole, it was like learning a whole new language. And it was also hard because the advice she was giving me was, you've got to spend money on something that you don't even know is going to sell. So I had to back myself. And most artists, when they're beginning, they don't have any money. You're not making money, you're just spending it. So I had to then start investing in these materials. And once I did that, I found that my art started getting better. I became more confident because it started looking better. The paints were thicker, the colors didn't fade once they dried. And then I was able to pay to get them framed. And when I got them framed, they would photograph better. Then I would make better content. When I had better content, my followers would grow. So it's like one thing led to another. So
yeah.
But it all came from like asking questions and reaching out, especially on Instagram. Most people are happy to help. Like I reached out to a lot of people. Some of them never got answered, which is totally fine. I get it because I now get so many questions and I do my best, but I can't answer all of them, especially if they're essays. But I think that most artists are happy to help others starting out because there's absolutely room for everyone. So
absolutely. And I love you sharing all of that because I think you touched on a few points that are so relatable to so many artists, especially in the beginning of their career, in terms of maybe stumbling into a creative practice where you make one or two things, find small wins or success through a local community event, through family friends saying, oh, I want a piece for my house, and doing it for the cost of materials, essentially. Because I think that's a hard barrier for a lot of artists to have, that transition from, or trying to transition from a hobbyist artist to thinking of their self as a professional artist, or like the confidence to have that label. Because also, to your point, a lot of the time, the beginning part of your business is self-funded. It's investing in materials. And then, yes, you have a painting as a product, but until it sells, there's not much other money coming in. So that's a big barrier.
And you also, at the beginning, you don't have an audience. So it might be the best painting in the world, but the only people that can see it are your 100 followers. Half of them are your family and your friends who aren't going to be buying your stuff anyway. So it's a real catch-22, and it's such a slow burn.
Exactly.
But, it's easy to think no one wants it. It's like, no, people want it, just no one can see it. So
exactly.
It's navigating all of that in the beginning.
And I think especially, as to your point, as you describe yourself as an untrained artist, not going to get an official degree in art or being professionally trained, a lot of it from what you were sharing was asking out, putting feelers out, of asking questions and just being willing to learn. But I'm curious of, if you don't mind sharing a bit more about that process, gaining confidence with your creative style. You mentioned having multiple art styles. There's a huge learning curve from the business standpoint of needing to photograph your work, investing in new materials. But from your creative style, how did that come about? Did you reach out to other artists for feedback?
No, I've never really sought approval for what I was doing. I've always been a creative and I've always had ideas and expressed them. And as soon as I start doing something for someone else, it goes pear-shaped. I cannot do it. back in the early days, I filled my books with commissions and most of them went wrong. They didn't end well. And I'm the common denominator in that. And I think it's just because as soon as someone tells me what to do or what to paint, and I gave them so much choice, I said, I can do anything you want. Make that, change that color, do this, do it like the other one. I'd be like, ugh. And it just really ruined the process for me. And it doesn't matter if it was for a close family member or a complete stranger, I just couldn't do it. So one day, because I was so miserable doing these commissions, there's the comfort of the commissions because you know that you're going to get paid and you've got like, okay, I've got like 5 months of income. That's awesome. But I hate what I'm doing. So you rock up to work every day and it's so unpleasant. I thought if I can roll the dice, say no to the commissions, that will open up my time so I can then start creating what I want to create. There'll be enough things for people to actually buy. If people don't like it, they can go away. They don't have to buy it. But hopefully if I do that, there will be enough stock for people actually to buy each month. And I've never looked back. That was about 2 years ago. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. And I was so nervous. I thought I'd be shooting myself in the foot. I thought like, that's it. My income's going to dry up. No one's going to want it. But of course they wanted it because most of the commission clients were wanting something that I'd already done and they wanted me to recreate a painting. So if I could just express, like they're liking what I'm doing when I'm like uninhibited. So maybe if I just keep doing that and go with that flow and paint what I want, they'll like it. And going with that flow as well, I guess the confidence, I just back myself. If I'm feeling the energy to do a certain type of painting, I do it. I don't wait for someone to tell me to do it. I don't have to wait until next week because I've got to fill this commission this week. If I want to paint what I want to paint, I rip off the plastic of the canvas and I just go for it and I don't plan it. It just happens organically. And that's when the best stuff comes out. So I guess it's just backing yourself, being confident, just not giving, I don't know if I can, what do you say, cuss, but give zero fucks about what anyone thinks because you can't. It's just a waste of time. And not everyone's going to like your work. You know, once you put it out there, you put it out there and people won't like it. You probably won't know about it, but you know, you got to be okay with that. I don't like all the paintings that I see. I don't like every song that I hear and that's okay. I don't have to, and they don't have to like my work. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with my work. So as soon as you can keep telling yourself that kind of message, it's okay. This is not going to be for everyone, but it is going to be for someone. And stuff eventually sells. So sometimes it sells fast, sometimes it sells slow, but if you just back yourself, it'll sell.
Yeah. And I think that's such an interesting comment about commissions too, that artists don't necessarily think about. Because to your point, it's seen as that quote unquote dependable income to where it may feel like more of a gamble just to make your own work. But I think you touched on something of like, that's the magic that a lot of collectors actually want. And oftentimes commission processes can turn into this snowball spiral of maybe the other person dictating a lot of the color scheme, the composition. This is the scale I want, to where it can take that energy out of the creative process that makes the piece so magical, to where
it's the energy. It is, you just end up being
a working, you're just a working,
you're a puppet. You're a puppet with a paintbrush. Puppet with a paintbrush. And that's how it felt, because that energy was gone. And that energy then is still there, but it turns into negative energy. And that's coming out on the painting. And then it will look like shit. And then you'll show it to them and they're like, oh, I'm not liking it. And I'm like, well, neither am I, but this is what you wanted.
Right.
So
you're like, I could have told you this color would look terrible here. And I told you it did. And you wanted it anyway. And so I think deciding as a business just to kind of draw that line in the sand, maybe for a specific phase of life, saying like, okay, 6 months, a year, 5 years, I'm just not doing commissions. It's one of those decisions that makes future decisions easier. Because then when someone approaches you to be like, actually, I'm not taking commissions right now. However, here are other paintings that are similar to the one that you liked. And they're like, okay, great. I love this. And it's
I feel though it also creates a bit of scarcity and power when you say I don't do commissions, and it's I don't know, it makes my actual pieces seem more valuable because you could get this or nothing. I'm not doing you a special one-off custom because I can't do it. I would love to be able to do commissions because it's great money, but they're just way too unenjoyable, and life's too short to be working on things you don't like. So I don't do it.
Well, and to play devil's advocate, I do commissions. And what I found is I also find myself in that, in that street with no exit, right? Of like, I hate this,
Yeah.
etc. And I just had to kind of change my process quite a bit. So now what I'll do
Mm.
is, if they're approaching me for a commission, usually they already like my paintings. So that's not a
Yeah.
problem. It's more of a, can you make it an X size? And like, this is some of our inspiration. And I
So it's
also
not
ask
too
them,
prescriptive.
it's not prescriptive. I don't
They
allow
give
that
you, as long
anymore.
as they give you a lot of creative control, but you get stronger. So
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
got to a next stage of my commissions, I started a contract. It would weed out the people that I knew were going to be troublesome. So
oh,
I
that's
was
true.
quite upfront and say, you only get to look at it one time until it's finished. If
Same.
you're not happy with this, then you can pay me $100 an hour until, like, it was basically, if these people knew that they were really prescriptive and they were really strong on what they wanted, they were going to back out and never sign that contract. So that did help, but
Yep.
I still just didn't like what I was doing. And you've obviously got to that point as well, where,
Yeah.
you can see them coming from a mile
Oh
away.
yeah,
When you get
yeah.
that in your inbox, can you paint my family
No,
in, like, paint them as, no,
I
all
don't
the
paint
different
people.
characters, and like, no,
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
can't
don't
do
paint
it.
people, and I've gotten asked, can you paint my dog?
Yeah.
Can you paint my grandma? And I'm
Yeah.
like, look at my art. I don't paint people like at all.
Yes.
Like,
So
no.
random.
But no,
Yeah.
I had to
You're
do
an
the same.
artist. You know how to
Yeah.
use a brush. Can you
Right. You
paint
can do
me? Like,
any style
no.
ever. It's like
Anything. Yeah.
asking a pianist if you're like, hey, can you just play the drums and the saxophone and the guitar? Like,
No.
no, I play the piano. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no.
could
It's exactly
probably because
like
I can
that.
read music, but that's about
Yeah.
the only tie-in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I had to do the same thing and kind of do a questionnaire that they have to fill out. And like one of the questions is, which of my existing paintings, like, do you like?
Mm.
Things like that, just to kind of get a grasp of it. And then I've
Yeah.
learned, I actually learned this from actually, I heard this from interior designers and from muralists, and now I do it in my own painting practice for commissions. I do mock-ups. So I actually make two
Yeah.
designs and I say, which one do you like? And they're digital. They're small, they're
So what
digital.
you do in, like, Procreate or something like that?
Similar. I use Adobe
Yeah.
Fresco since I have the Adobe
Yeah.
universe and pay out of the behind for it.
And therefore you've got like a template and they've agreed on it. So the painting has to look something
Exactly.
like
Yep.
this.
So the invoice,
That's
the
clever.
contract, everything
Ooh.
shows which one they've chosen. And then what I end up doing, or what I did on one of my last ones was, which advice for anybody that's like on the fence about commissions, was what I did on the last one was they actually liked both of the designs. And they were
Oof.
like, we prefer this one, but
Blend.
we actually love both. I painted both of them. So they were
Did you?
4 feet. Yes, I did. 4 feet by 4 feet. And this is a happy story. They picked the other one. They didn't pick the
Oh,
one that they initially selected. They picked the other design once they saw them in person. And
what a fascinating experiment.
exactly, because I'm like, by doing it this way, two things. Number one, they already liked both, right? Number two, they're both the same size format, so they're very large. I already have the big, large brushes out. One of two things could have happened. Actually, one of three things could have happened. If they liked both, well, there you go. That would have been amazing, right?
Yeah.
Or they picked one out of the two. Or if they didn't like either one, they had already put in a deposit and they could use that towards an existing painting. Is how I do it. I
That's
don't give
clever.
refunds. So I was like,
Hell no.
either way, it's a win-win. So, but they loved
Exactly.
it.
And then you had a second piece that you could then sell on
Correct.
your website.
You got it. That's
And
exactly
only one
it.
palette. You mix the paint once, right? Use the same
Yes.
brushes. It's
Yes.
all about being
Literally, I had
efficient with
both
your time.
paintings next to each
Yeah.
other as I worked on them.
Yeah.
So
Time
this
is
color here,
money.
this color there. So it was a lot
Yes.
more free. And I think what ended up happening too, so in case you were entertaining the idea, that I found interesting is the one that I was making for them felt a little bit more constrained because I had that pressure of this is the design
Mhm.
they approved. The one they fell in love with was the one I took risk on, where I was like, well, it's not the one
Yes.
they picked, but it's what I want to make. So I'm going to do whatever.
Yes.
So I
You
did.
just nailed it. What a great
Yes.
case study. This
And
is
that has the
incredible.
magic in it.
Yeah. So the one
Yep.
that like I took risk on and did things where I was like, I don't have the pressure because it's not the one that I'm contractually obligated to finish is the one
Yes.
they fell in love with and kept
I've got to
finding
start
things
doing
in it.
this.
And they were like, we love this detail. And I was like, good, because that was a risk. and you loved it.
Did you tell them that in the end though?
Yes, I did. Yes,
Yeah.
I did. And they were like, well, we love it because you did this, which this one doesn't have. Because they got to see
Yeah.
them side by side when I took it to their home. And we put it
Yeah,
up on the
wow.
wall and they walked away and came back, put up the other one, walked away, came back. Like it was a great experience. But
Yeah.
I'm with you on this. Another thing that I would add to that is, for any artist considering commissions yourself as well, was the other thing that I considered with is I put a minimum as well. This is the other thing I had to do in terms of how much the commissions are. So someone's like, make me this tiny commission on paper. I'm sorry, no.
Oh, you put in a minimum size, you mean?
Yep.
Like you are not going to,
Yep.
no, hell no, I'm not. That's
It
what I
needs
said.
to be
Someone said, I
worth,
will do a commission
it needs
if
to be
it's
worth
bloody
of our
massive.
time. Yeah.
If it's so big, I will do it. Otherwise, not happening.
Exactly. But that's
Yep.
food for thought. Like I said, I had to play
Yep.
devil's advocate there for a second because I know
Yes.
commissions can go awry very quickly.
You have to be in
Especially-
control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
certain
especially.
styles that I could do and copy quite easily if I wanted to, like my
Yeah.
cubisty ones or my people ones even, but the abstract ones are so spur of the moment. It's like
Yeah.
choreographing a dance on the spot and then having someone say, okay, that 10-minute dance you just did, do it over again.
Yeah,
Like
no.
you cannot recreate it. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the magic happens once with that. Yeah.
Yep. Nope. And I like to tell my commission clients if they're asking for an iteration of something that's there, I'm like, I can make cousins, not twins. Literally, straight up. And like that just helps. They're related, but I can't,
Yeah.
no, they can be
Yeah.
related. That's
Yeah.
about it. But
Cousins, not
with
twins,
that,
that's
this is
perfect.
such a great conversation. I love it.
Oh, so
With
good.
that, I did want to ask you, of course, we're talking painting and all the things, but when did you expand your business by turning your original paintings into art products, print, clothing? I take it the
Mhm.
sweater you're wearing has your painting on it.
My latest release, yes.
Yeah. And what motivated
Well,
you to pursue that choice?
Well, it probably came down to the commission thing as well, because everyone wanted this one painting I'd done. So I ended up doing 3 copies of the same painting and painting it over again. And then this same lady who had told me about all the art materials, like, you should consider doing prints. And I'm like, prints, how do I do that? New concept, no idea what any of this meant. So again, I reached out on Instagram and everyone kept coming back to this company called Southern Boy. They're down in Victoria. I'm up in New South Wales. So it's the next state or province down from me. So they're far, far away, but they do artist services. And if you know of someone like this in the States, please let me know, because we have to spend a fortune. I can only ship my stuff overseas in a roll because it's too expensive. We're a big island here and we can't send it offshore in a frame. So anyway, they take care of like everything. They can photograph my work. They print it out on beautiful canvas or on paper, cotton rag paper. They stretch it, they frame it, they ship it. So it took me months and months to set it up on the back end of my website. I built a Shopify store because it's great for e-commerce, and figured out all the sizing of my prints, and I offer them in all different sizes. That was a big investment of time getting that set up. But once I did that, it was set and forget, and it ticks over while I'm sleeping. So it's been the best passive income. When I started my print shop a couple of years ago, I think I offered about 10 prints, and I'm now up to 150. So each time it's amazing. So each time I do a small body of work, I select a couple of the paintings, usually the ones that sold the fastest, and I get them scanned. It cost me about $100 or so to get each one scanned. So I've got this record of a beautiful, like massive megabyte file of my artwork, and that can then be used to make really fine quality prints, which are so realistic that I see some of them and I just cannot believe that it's not the original. So yeah, it's amazing also for someone else to be doing all the hard work there. So I get the order in and I just have to pass it on, and then the guys just make it happen. So yeah, the only missing link is being able to ship it overseas in a frame, because I know framing over there where you guys are is probably super expensive as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. But to help any artists that are listening to this, the places we found in our area, normally they're imaging companies, or they'll have something like imaging in the name. They're the folks that do, a lot of times they do banners, signs, things like that. we found one local to us where you can take the paintings and they'll either take photos or scan.
Mhm.
So they have a large
Depending on how big it
flatbed
is.
scanner. It does cost a lot, just like it does on your
Yeah.
end, but they
Yeah.
can be set up that if we were doing it on our website, it's not 100% automated, but we can set it up that if somebody places an order, they can be notified, and they do take care of
Yeah.
printing on
So a
canvas,
full-on drop
glass,
ship situation.
wood. Yeah, they print on all kinds of materials, cotton rag, photo paper, wallpaper. Like they have a lot of different materials, but it's a type of sign company.
Yeah,
And we
right.
found several in our area, and they'll do it.
Yeah. So we
That's
might
so
be able
good.
to relay that information over to you if you're looking. They may become your North Carolina,
Yes.
United States based distributor potentially.
Yes, please.
But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have to
Yeah.
connect after the episode for sure.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I'm sure like getting those high quality prints, both from a documenting your journey standpoint, is huge and is one thing that we talked to a lot of artists about. Of even pieces in the beginning of your journey, you're going to want to wish that you had documented those before they sold, because to your point,
Mm,
if a collector comes and says, I absolutely love this piece, maybe you don't have the original, but you can get a 5-foot version printed on canvas that
yeah,
obviously isn't as magical as the real thing. It's not the material, but it
the
can get
next
pretty
best.
close. And for
It's
you,
just, yeah,
you've already done the work. So it is that more passive income. It feels like free money, even though obviously you invest into it.
exactly. I think it's just a really good investment to get your work professionally photographed like that. To have those files
Mhm.
could be worth so much. Like what you can produce, maybe it costs $100 to get the photograph or the scan, but how many times I can resell that as a print just from this one file is really worth investing the money. So yes, that I
Yeah.
would definitely put that high on my priority list.
And also sharing it on your website and in all your marketing materials too, because you have grown a substantial audience on social media, and producing that digital content is honestly a whole other hat that you have to wear as an art
Mhm.
entrepreneur and business owner. So I am curious, with sharing your story on social media, how has that impacted your creative workflow or shifted your creative practice by intentionally sharing on there?
It's a necessary evil. And it's brutal and I hate it. I don't hate it, but I hate it because it's always there on your mind. Like sometimes you just want to paint and you're like, oh, I got to get the tripod out and film this. I don't want to film it, but I have to film it. But
Mhm.
you have to constantly make, if you want to grow on social, you have to be constantly making good content and filming interesting things, which I find as an artist it's quite easy to do because we're always doing something that is bright and colorful. You're mixing a paint, you're washing your brushes, you're hanging paintings, you're getting out of your car with an artwork, you're varnishing, whatever you're doing, there's a way to film it and to make it look interesting. So I use I guess I go into the back of Instagram and you can see in your analytics when your followers are most engaged in what you're doing. For me, that's 9 o'clock at night. And so it is the last thing I want to do at 9 o'clock every night, but at least 4 to 5 times a week, I put the kids to bed and then I've got whatever time is left to find the content that I made that day and cut it together in a reel and write some copy and then post it. And I don't love doing this, but I've always remained consistent. And sometimes I'll get like 200 followers a day for a couple of months, and then that will like dive down to 10 followers a day or minus followers a day. But the one thing I am throughout all of that, I don't change what I do. I remain consistent. On the
Mhm.
times where it's soaring and the times where it's dipping, I just keep doing the same thing. So I'm trying not to do it. I guess I'm pleasing the algorithm a little bit, but also just the algorithm is always going to change, but I'm not. So I figure if I just stay true and stay consistent with what I'm doing, things should stay good for me. Um, so yeah, how it affects my workflow, yeah, it can be a little disruptive, but I'm pretty well trained now in making a making a good point of remembering to film the things and photograph the things, just constantly making that content. So there's always going to be something to post.
Yeah, and I also love that in yours too. I mean, good point that you just made up. Not all of, like, if anybody takes a quick look at the grid, Anna Price underscore art, in case you're on a computer, near a computer. You have a mixture of videos and photos. So it's not like you're trying to chase the algorithm, whatever the new hack is, and just do videos. You
Yeah.
actually have a mixture of them. So that's definitely good to see and be like, okay, there's hope for those of us that are
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I want to do video right now. I don't feel
Oh,
like it. I'm too
video
tired. You could always do a
sucks. I
photo too.
mean, but it's because the algorithm just wants to show you videos. But I prefer, and I think most people do prefer seeing nice still images, but they don't come up in a feed. They won't be
Yeah,
shown to you. So if I could do a reel and it will get like, 100
thousands of
views a
views.
minute for the first hour. But then if I do a beautiful still photograph, it just doesn't get seen. It's nowhere. So I don't care because I like looking at my grid and it's
Yeah.
this lovely picture of the grid is so important though. Like you shouldn't
Yes.
underestimate the grid because that has to look consistent as well.
It's your shop window,
It is your
essentially.
shop window.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and you
But
have
yeah,
persons of all types of backgrounds and age groups that are looking at your shop window trying to make a decision. And if all they see is
yes.
video and they hate video,
Yeah.
give them
Yes,
photos too.
exactly. Exactly.
Gotta
But
have
look, I've built my business on this. Like, and
yeah.
that's this brings me to the blue tick thing as well. I don't know if it's been like a polarizing thing for you guys, but I built my business on Instagram and I didn't pay a single thing. And I've done well because of that. And a couple of years ago, someone said you've got to if Instagram fell over, you'd be stuffed. And I thought I will be stuffed. That's why I started my subscriber list. But
Hmm.
I don't mind paying for verification
Hmm.
because I pay for MailChimp, I pay for web hosting, I pay for
Hmm.
my accounting software, I pay for all these things. So if they want me to pay $30 a month or whatever it is for verification, I'm more than happy to do that. And it's not so I can be like, hey, I got a blue tick, I'm famous. It's not at all about that. It's about, first of all, building trust with your clients because they're probably more likely to buy from you if you are a verified person. And secondly, it's for security, for my security, because I would spend sleepless nights worrying about my account getting hacked
Yes.
because I don't know what would happen to my business if that happened. And so I think a lot of people have thought that getting verified you'll get all these followers and it's going to change your life. And they're like, I haven't got any more followers or traffic and this sucks. And I don't know what I'm paying for, but I think it's about other things. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there's been a few polarizing views about the whole verification thing, but I got on board just so I could sleep at night.
Hey, I mean, speaking of being able to sleep at night when it comes to
Yeah.
social media, are there boundaries they have put in place to help you decide what to share and what you don't want to share on social media?
Um, the only thing I don't share is my personal life, my family's, and my social life. And, because people are there to follow my art journey, they're not there to see what I did at the beach on the weekend with my kids. Like, who cares? Like, that's no one's business. And also, there's a lot of creeps out there. So I don't want people seeing what my kids look like. But no, that's kind of just where I draw the line. I try not to be too opinionated on things. I like to share. I don't share how I paint and how I build my paintings, but I like to give some advice, like share some advice on how I am efficient in my business and things that have helped me. So I think there's enough room out there for everyone. Some people say you share too much and you're giving it all away and da da da. So, but I don't know. It's advice that I would appreciate. I don't think it's affecting like my IP or anything like that. So um I can sometimes be a bit too generous with my advice or think twice about that after I've posted it. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Am I giving all my secrets away? But yeah, no, the only thing that I really hold off on is like the family and the personal details.
Yeah, no,
Because
and
it's
that
not
makes
about me, it's about my work. So I
yeah.
don't want it to be the Anna Price show. I want it to be about Anna Price's art. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's one of those things too, because we've heard this before where someone's like, am I giving too much away? Am I sharing too much? And at the end of the day, it's like, well, if you're generous about it and you put it out in the world, then it's a way, at least the way we see it, it's a way of giving back because somebody else already did that for you, and that's how you learn.
yeah,
If it weren't for
exactly.
University of YouTube, so to speak, or some
Yes.
artists for free, probably didn't even get paid, not even 10 cents, per view kind
Yeah,
of situation, went ahead and shared their tutorials or a book that we invested in where there was a step by step, it's like those things help our journey. And I feel like as long
100%.
as we're not sharing it to the point where it's a tutorial and this is how you do the background and this is how you do the line and this is how you
Exactly.
do, as long as we're not showing like a step by step, and then people can get from it what they want, but most people are just there to watch, just to look
Yeah,
or
exactly.
entertainment or maybe bring a little bit of joy into their into their
Yep.
zombie corporate
Yep.
lives, right?
A bit of
But they're not there to
ASMR.
copy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the
And you
one
still get
percent
the
that's gonna
copycats,
copy is
but
gonna copy anyways, and then they'll move on
yeah,
eventually. So who
exactly. And
cares?
they never get far. The copycats never go far.
Yeah.
And then
So
they get over you and then they move on to the next person.
yeah,
So I
to
try
use
not
your
to get too
words.
fired up about that as well.
Yeah, to use your words,
Um,
they can get stuffed.
yeah, get stuffed. See you later.
Yeah. And it's all about sharing what feels right to you, right? That's
Yeah.
one thing that we talked to a lot of artists about, of figuring out where your boundaries are and then like staying true to them. There's no one
Yeah.
recipe fits all for anything in an art business, what to share on social media, how to make art, different styles you have to do. But yes, you can listen to advice and then see how it fits in your art business.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
for emerging artists who want to document their journey, what advice would you have for them for sharing that journey on social media?
I would say stay consistent and learn how to take really good photos. I think that the problem is people look at your stuff for like 2 seconds before they have made their opinion about you. And
Mhm.
if you have a beautiful looking grid that's consistent and looks nice and appealing to the eye, then they're going to dive deeper into your page and be more interested in what you're doing. But if your front page or your shop window, as you said, is not looking any good, they're going to move on pretty quickly. So invest in some good equipment, a tripod or 2 tripods or whatever it is you need, or a ring light, something that or take photos at the same time of day when the light's good, and just make sure your edges are straight. Everyone's got an iPhone. You can crop things, you can filter them however you need to, and just make things look good, because that's you selling yourself. It's your shop window. And just being consistent, but also being true to yourself, not posting what you think people want to see, because that always shows when you're trying to follow trends or post what you think, or this kind of reel is trending, so I'm going to do one of those reels. It's just do what you want to do, express yourself your way. If it feels right, post it. And I've had times where I've been about to post something and it's something in my gut has just felt a little bit wrong about it. I don't know what it is, or the message I was giving out, and I pulled it out, or I posted it and I've deleted it right away, because that's I'm going to start thinking about that post for the next 2 hours and worried about what people are thinking about it. I pull it. So just listen to your gut when you're posting, and don't post for posting's sake. That's that would be my advice.
No, that's perfect advice. That's perfect advice. It's like if you're gonna be it's not gonna be authentic, then don't even, because that might
Exactly.
be somebody's first experience of you anyway. So why would you want to put something second rate, Doesn't have to be
Exactly.
perfect, but if it's too cringy,
Yeah, if it doesn't feel right, then it's usually not right. If it walks
yeah.
like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So, um, you know,
On that note, absolutely love that. Well, Anna, one of the questions we like to ask all our guests is how they define success. But first, we're going to put in a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by our Level Up Artist resources.
We understand that life as a modern artist can be both exciting and overwhelming. Plus, there's a lot of information out there, but what do visual artists actually need?
We've spent countless hours of trial and error, weeding through tons of information to find the gold, so that you don't have to waste time going down those endless rabbit holes.
We created a library of PDF resources with bonus videos that cover everything from artist documents to exhibition prep, social media to technology, sales strategies, and artist mindset, several templates, and more.
Ready to get started? Head on over to levelupartist.com/shop to level up your creative career today.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Anna, how do you define success as an artist?
Success for me is being able to sell my work on my own and keep 100% of the profits. So it's not always an easy thing to do. I think when you're starting up, I always felt like I had to be represented by someone else to be like legitimized, I guess. And it hit me like a few years ago. I had a lot of stockists and gallerists down in Victoria, and I would send work to them, and sometimes it would sell, but often it would sit there for a few months. And I would say, okay, it hasn't sold, let's ship it back up to me and I'll see if I can sell it. And as soon as I got it back, as soon as I posted it, it would sell right away. And it made me realize that nobody's can work as hard for me as I can work for me. No one can sell me as well as I can sell me. They've got a shop or a gallery, but it's not all about me. They're selling my work. They're also selling the next person's work and the next homeware and whatever. So I'm just one product in a store of many. But when I'm representing myself, that's all I'm doing, and I'm selling myself, and I know my product better than anyone else does. So my new business model now is I've used Instagram to collect subscribers, because the person who said if your Instagram falls over, you're stuffed, they also said you need to build your subscriber list in case that ever happens, because that's where all the cream of your followers is. So I have a nice subscriber list now, and it's probably 2% of my overall followers, but these are the people who are actually interested in buying my work. And so I use social media to tell them about my subscribers, about my subscription list. And it's not a newsletter that says, hey, everyone, guess what I'm doing this week? Because I hate newsletters. They fill my inbox. I don't read them. I delete them. It is an email that goes out once a month with listings of my original artworks that my subscribers can see first. So it kind of creates a bit of exclusivity there and allows me to sell things on my own, list them on my own, photograph them on my own, and then deal it when they do sell. I can ship them here, ship them everywhere. I'm not relying on anyone else but myself. And I'm also taking 100% of the profit. So I love this new model because it works for me. I'm still selling all my stuff and I'm not beholden to anyone or anything else. It's all on my own terms in my own time. So I don't know. I've worried about not being in big galleries and being seen in other places, or feeling sometimes like, oh, maybe I'm not worth anything because I've never been asked to be in one of the major galleries. But who cares at the end of the day, because I'm selling work, and that's all I want to do. I want to support my family, and I want to paint what I want to paint when I want to paint it. And so for me, I'm feeling like that's my little area of success, and that's my happy zone, and that's as much as I can handle without having pressure from anyone else or anyone else in my life. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah, I
Perfect
absolutely
answer.
love that, because it's also embracing those skills that we've talked in other episodes. Oftentimes artists seek gallery representation, yes, for the like grandeur of it or the perceived success
The
of being in a
validation,
gallery.
the
The
validation that you think
validation.
you need.
Right. And it also, they do provide services from a marketing perspective, from a marketing, like your work. But if you are an artist that prefers doing that on your own, prefers telling your own story and can thrive in that as a business, I mean, owning your own assets to kind of get high level, like that's always more valuable than
Yeah,
something of leaning on others. So I love that
exactly.
advice. Yeah.
Well,
So
thank
now,
you.
what is one piece of advice you wish you had heard before you got started on your creative journey?
It's a piece of advice that I now give to people, and it's just grow slow. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. I think a lot of people think I'm going to start this art business and I'm going to like bolt out of the gates and shoot the lights out. And it doesn't, like, as we discussed earlier, like in the beginning, no one can see you. It takes time to grow that audience and to grow your style and to figure out what you're doing. And it takes a long time to sell stuff in the beginning. And commissions are often the way forward because it's a guaranteed income flow, but it all just takes time. So not to rush things. And I still need to take this advice myself. Like, I did a release recently of beach people, and I sold all but one. The one I didn't sell, it was massive. It was like a 2.5 by 1.5 meter. Like, what would I say in I don't even know what that is in feet. I'm sorry, but it's
That's
big,
okay.
like you would need a huge wall. And so those artworks are much harder to sell because they're very big, they're way more expensive, and you need a really big wall. And so it didn't sell within a day or two. So I got the scissors out and I cut it into like 3 or 4 different paintings, which then I edited, and I finally sold all of them. But it was just a stupid thing to do. I should have just left it on my website, because 3 weeks later, this chick from the US emails me and says, hey, a few weeks ago, you posted this painting. I loved it, but I can't find it on your website anywhere and I want to buy it. I'm like, oh, it still exists. It's just been like Edward Scissorhanded. Like it's gone. I didn't tell her what I did to it, but it's in a few different pieces. It's
scattered. It's scattered.
I've done a number on it. So back to my original point, just like be patient. Like things take time to sell. And I think it's like gambling. People with gambling problems, if they hit the jackpot, then they think they're going to keep doing it. So they keep throwing money into it. Like if you have a good week of selling paintings really quickly and one doesn't sell, it's like, I've got to sell them right away, right now. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. There's something wrong. They're not selling. It's like, no, just chill.
Yeah.
Just back the truck up, take a chill pill, calm the farm. It's going to be okay. Just let it sit for a while and the right person will come along at the right time. So yes, grow slow.
Yeah.
Be patient, back yourself. Just do what you want to do and follow your energy. I'm not a very spiritual person, but I'm a strong believer in following your energy. So if you get to work one day and the thought of painting is not what you want to do, you couldn't think of anything worse. Sit down, do your admin, or design a new painting on the screen, or clean your studio, or clean your toilet, or just put your energy where it wants to go, because you'll have those moments when you want to paint. You'll like wake up at 7 a.m, or it'll be 10 o'clock at night and the idea light bulb comes. Your energy is just going to flow into that like crazy. So if you don't want to do something, don't do it. Or if you don't want to do that admin, just do the painting. If you're itching to do a painting when you're meant to be doing something else, just do the painting. Follow the energy, follow the good energy.
If you can.
It'll lead you to good places. If you can.
Yeah. If it's 2 a.m. and the studio's 30 minutes away, maybe wait till the morning.
True. Yes. Well, get a notepad and write down your idea of the dream you just had, because
or an
iPad in the morning.
And do the sketch, do a quick digital sketch, and then go back to sleep. But I did want to research my meters to feet conversion is not built into my brain, so I looked it up real quick for context. It's about 8 feet.
So a 20 foot is 6 meters, I believe. 6 meters.
Yeah, so 2.5 meters is 8.2 feet.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big painting. I mean, that's almost
it's chopped.
That's baby mural size. Yeah, that's huge. Not a lot of people have space for something like that in their house. I mean, some people see them aren't even that tall.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much I could have sold that for as well? Like, yeah. So don't chop your paintings. Don't do it.
And or like I said, wait, because
I'm a doer. I'm not a thinker.
Yeah, hey, that's okay too. Also, like the fact of the matter is, like, that is a big size, and that's also going to come with an investment, and might take that collector a couple more extra things, thinking about it, a couple nights sitting on it before they're ready to pull.
Exactly.
To decide on it. But yeah, no, I've had work that sold like 3 years later, and somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that," and I'm like, "But it's old." But honestly, it doesn't matter.
But people don't know it's old. They've just discovered you. They don't know it's been sitting there for 3 years.
No, they don't, and they don't care. Actually, I found they don't care. This is why I don't date my paintings anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, I end up painting most of them anyways. After a few years, if I'm like, it doesn't
painting
resonate,
over them,
then I paint over them.
I do that too. I just do it too soon, way too soon.
No, I give them at least a year. Actually, I've tried.
That's good.
Yeah, I give them a year. I look to see when's the last time, so I keep a pretty meticulous record. Whenever I finish a painting, it goes into my database.
Super nerdy.
More stuff offline for that. But actually, we have an episode on art inventory. Anybody that's listening to this.
Oh, yes.
But
I need
literally,
to
like,
look
I'll
into
finish
that.
it and it has the title. So for purposes of submissions to an exhibition and things like that, I do know
Yeah.
exactly when it was finished. But sometimes I'll look
Whoa.
and say it's 2 years old and it no longer resonates with my body of work or my style or things like that.
Yeah.
Then I'll
You've
make a
evolved.
decision. Either I put it in a studio sale, which I'll only do that like once a year if I'm trying to
Yeah.
clear out some space, or I just literally exit out and just
Yep.
put another painting on top. But
Yeah,
that way in
exactly.
my record, I can mark, I repainted it, remixed it, reiterated, whatever I want to write with it, reimagined, usually I'll write. And I'm just writing that on the title in the back too. I'll put remixed or something
Yeah.
like that. So that I'll know, so that later on, because I've had it
Yeah.
happen, then I had somebody ask for a specific painting and I couldn't find it. And then I
And you're
went to
like,
my
where is
inventory
it?
and
Ah,
I painted it
yeah.
over. And it was like 2 years later. And they were like, I've
Oh,
been wanting
wow.
this painting. I've been looking at it for years. Like, I keep scrolling to your Instagram, this painting. I'm finally ready to buy it. And I'm like, I
It's
just
like
painted it over like 3 months ago. It doesn't
it
exist anymore.
still exists. It still exists. It's just under some stuff that you
Yeah,
can't
but
get
the
off the
problem is
top.
the new painting sold. So they couldn't even
Yeah, I
buy
know. I know. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, see,
That's
that's why
happened
I
to me
haven't
before.
yet gotten to the point where I've painted over pieces, because I've had several situations like that happen to where it's like 6 months, 8 months, a year after I created it. And then I put it on one social media post that, to
And
your
it
point,
goes.
Anna, it was like, I need to post, like, I want to post something, but I'm not feeling like a photo shoot moment in my studio. Let me put this like older picture that I took. And someone's like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I love this piece.
I need
And I'm
it.
like, well, perfect. It's already
Done.
done. Yeah.
Done.
So
But the thing
it's
is,
funny
if it's
what,
hiding in your back storage room, no one can see it. You know it's there, but
yeah.
you're like, this one won't sell. It's like, yeah, because you haven't listed it. They don't
Yep.
know it's
Right.
there. But if you
Yep.
keep putting something on your feed or your stories and people see it over and over again, they're more likely to buy it. But we
That
forget
is so
because
true.
it's hard. I mean, I spend probably 30-40% of my time painting, and the rest of it is making content, doing admin, and running the business. Like
That's
I
pretty
think a lot
good.
of people think we as artists are just painting all day, then we go home and have dinner
Yeah.
and we come back and we just paint. It's like
Yep.
running a business. It is hard work. And
Yeah.
it is very much not painting. It's a very little amount of that is actually doing the fun stuff of the painting. So
I know. I
yeah,
know. If
Yeah.
only. If
But
only.
it's
But
all rainbows and unicorns.
yeah,
yeah, but honestly,
absolutely.
sometimes that admin work can, I found, also like reinforce the creative practice sometimes, like writing about your work, sharing about it on social media. Like, okay, what parts of this painting do I want to highlight to my collectors? It also then
Mm,
reinforces, okay, what parts are you drawn towards? What are the stories behind the pieces? And so
yeah.
sometimes it can feel like, oh, I just want to paint, but I have to do admin work too. But oftentimes shifting that can feel helpful in terms of, okay, this is my time to really solidify the narrative behind my work, or gifting yourself the time to reflect on, how is this series coming together? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to go towards? So
It
it can
is
be
really
that.
gifting time though, isn't it? When you make time to stop and reflect, which is something
Mhm.
I don't do enough of, or if
Mhm.
ever. Yeah, it's tough.
I'm sure you do. Your work is cohesive. You definitely are doing the thinky time at some
Oh,
point.
thank you. No, I feel like I'm just like a bull at a gate. I just go and I often stop. I forget to stop and just sit back and look at what I'm doing. And I never plan as well. I want to spend more time planning what I do, because it would probably save me a lot of time in the future if I actually put more thought into what I was doing next. So
Mm.
we'll see how that goes.
Work in
Did
progress.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if somebody were to randomly hand you 100 Australian dollars, what would you
Mhm.
splurge on or invest in? It has to be something that brings you joy and relates to your art or business.
Okay, well, recently, so I designed this wall. I would buy a wall. I made this wall. It's like 2 meter. Okay, what we got the measurements for a 2 meter by 2 meters.
Yeah,
Let's just
two
call it eight
meters,
foot,
so a
eight
little
foot
less
by
than me.
8 foot, like a big plywood square, double sided. It's like 2 feet wide, maybe 1.5 feet wide, and it's got shelves in the side, and it's got caster wheels on it. And I
Oh,
wheel this thing around my studio. And I can put it up against the door at night when I leave, and it's got lights on the top. And if I need to take photos in certain light, I move it this way. Or if I want to split my studio in half, it splits the studio in half. And it's been the greatest thing. It's the whole thing is like a mobile art studio in itself. So it can change my space from a square to a rectangle. So it's like, I don't know, it is, if I'm going to build another one for my next studio, and if I had $100, I would be buying or investing in another art wall designed by me.
I love that. So it's functional for
Yep.
your creative practice, but also great for making digital content. So kind of fits all the boxes.
Exactly.
Very
it sure
unique
does.
idea. I love that.
Yeah.
Phew, what an amazing, amazing conversation. I feel like there were so many gems in there that even listening back still are applicable today. And really, I had new ones that sunk in for me in a different way than our original conversation, which is so funny how things resonate more the first time around versus the second.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about bringing these episodes back, which again, we're going to be highlighting some of our favorite ones. Some of the topics we discussed are even more applicable now that in our art or art business or life back, since we listened to them. So we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we loved revisiting it.
As always, our blog will be linked in today's show notes, where you will find episode notes and links to all of our other podcast episodes.
If you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share your feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. I'm at May Art across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we are at Level Up Artists on Instagram.
You can also visit levelupartist.com to get immediate access to templates, resources, and modules to level up your creative career today.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.